Hello and welcome. I'm the Tilted Crown Gourmet. Today we're going to be doing the ultimate lobster bisque. So let's get some prep done and let's get cooking. Let's start off with a large white or yellow onion. Slice it in half and then small to medium size dice it. We are not making a stock that is cooking for many hours. This stock will only cook for approximately 2 hours. So we want to pull out as much flavor as possible from our ingredients. Next, peel and dice one large carrot, again, make it into small to medium sized diced pieces. Then small to medium sized dice a rib of celery. Since mine had been trimmed at the store, I used 2 ribs in order to get the amount that you normally would get from one. Small to medium sized dice your leek, white portion only. Normally I would use a quarter of a piece of fennel, however, that was not available to me, so I used a leek and dried fennel seeds. Now you should have a nice bowl of small to medium sized diced vegetables. I've also cut the ends off of my garlic cloves and I've set them aside for later. I had been saving my lobster and shrimp shells from other dishes in a freezer bag in the freezer for this dish. However, I also need some fresh lobster meat, and you know what? More shells, more better. Cut the bottoms from your additional lobster tails. In my case, I used 4, 1 per guest, and I added these shells to my collection and put the meat aside for later. Now let's start making our bisque. In a large pot, add your olive oil. Turn your heat to low medium and allow your oil to heat slightly. Then add your garlic cloves. Saute them for a few minutes, moving them around until they get brown, like this. Grab your bag of saved lobster and shrimp shells and add to your pot, turning your heat up to medium. You will want to saute them until all of the shells are bright red. This should take approximately 6 minutes. If any of the remaining meat in the shells sticks to the bottom of the pan, make sure that you scrape it up. You don't want anything to burn. If you feel your heat is too high, then lower it. We're in no rush. Remember what I always say, slow and steady wins the race. Once the shells are bright red, we will add our vegetables. We want to caramelize them over medium to medium-high heat, which should take approximately 15 minutes. Once you see that you have some brown caramelization on your onions specifically, we are good to go for our next step. Add in your tomato paste and make sure to mix it into your vegetables and shells well and cook for approximately 5 minutes, as you want to bring out the sweetness of the paste and get rid of any metallic taste. You should end up with a bit of a rust color. Once you have achieved this, deglaze with your sherry and reduce your liquid by half. Note that your vegetables and shells may absorb most of your sherry almost immediately. Cook for approximately 2 minutes. Add in your dry white wine. In this case, it was a very dry Sauvignon Blanc. You will cook this down until it is also reduced by half. The bottom of the pot should have a rather thick looking liquid. Add in your port wine and again cook it down by half. Once you pour in the port, you will see that there is a nice amount of liquid. Cook this for approximately 4 minutes. Add in 12 cups of chicken stock. However, you could substitute water, your quartered Roma tomato, and your basil leaves. Mix it all together and allow this to simmer on low for 45 minutes. After 45 minutes, it's time to strain your stock. I use a dipping pot, which I would recommend, and I place my colander over a second large pot and strain my stock through the colander. And once you get to the bottom, just pour the rest in. Now make sure you get a ladle, a strong one, and push as much of the liquid from your shells and vegetables into your pot through your strainer. Once I've gotten out all of my liquid, then I've strained it again, but this time through a cheesecloth to make sure I have an ultra smooth end product. However, you can skip this step if you choose, but you can see how much more grit is removed with the second strain through the cheesecloth. Now place that pot back onto your stovetop, turning the heat to high so you can boil it to reduce your stock by 1/3 in order to intensify the flavors more. Make sure you stir to the bottom to ensure no sticking and hence burning occurs. We will ultimately thicken the bisque with a slurry. So take your corn, or in this case potato starch, and whisk in your cold water, making sure that it's completely incorporated, and set it aside. Go back to your pot and see if your bisque has cooked down by 1/3. If so, add in your whipping cream, stirring or whisking as you add to make sure that it's completely combined. Once you have completed this, then you add your slurry, whisking or stirring as you add it to make sure that it's well combined. Your heat will need to be medium to medium high because you want a light boil, as this will activate the slurry. Season with salt if necessary and white pepper. Make sure you taste it for balance, mixing everything together. To finish, add your cognac. Your bisque should be rich and creamy. Check for nappe, which simply means you coat the back of a spoon with your bisque, then you run your finger through it. It should not run back through that area. If you're not at this point, add more slurry. However, we are, so the bisque is ready, so turn your heat off. Garnishing is important at the Tilted Crown Gourmet, so take your lobster meat that we had saved from earlier out so we can prepare it. Take a saute pan, add garlic and butter over low heat until the butter melts. Then add some white wine. Since we use Sauvignon Blanc in our bisque, I'm using it again to poach our lobster. Place your lobster tails into your butter, and your tails should be mostly covered by your butter and wine mixture. After about 5 minutes, you want to flip your lobster tails over and cook for an additional 4 minutes. Then remove them from the butter and cut them into bite-sized pieces or per your liking. Chop up some chives and set them aside. Then mix some crème fraiche along with some milk so that it's at a pouring consistency. To serve, I like to place my bisque into individual serving pots with lids, as I like the presentation that this allows. It also keeps the bisque nice and hot. However, you could skip this and place your bisque directly into shallow bowls if you choose. Take your lobster tail meat, one per person, and mound it into the center of your shallow serving bowls. Once they are placed in front of your guests, pour your bisque in a circular motion around the mounded lobster meat. Drizzle your crème fraiche mixture around the top, creating a decorative pattern, then top with chives. At this point, you have produced the ultimate lobster bisque for your guests. Sit down and savor your creation. Bon appetit.
I've just completed consuming one of Lonnie's signature dishes, lobster bisque. Considering the ingredients, the blend of flavors was fabulous and the taste was exquisite. My only concern is that the chunks of lobster tail were slightly too big, that they should be pared down smaller. But that doesn't mean it affects the dish at all. That's the only negative thing I can think of. Otherwise, it was just fabulous.
I would like to thank you for continuing to watch the Tilted Crown Gourmet. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, because you know that helps to grow this channel, because it helps the YouTube algorithm. So again, thank you for watching the Tilted Crown Gourmet.